Welcome to another episode of This Witch is Spiral, number 4, and the very first episode of the new year, 2024. Thank you so much, Julie, for joining me today. Today I have Julie Cloutier, which I've probably already butchered, but no, okay,
You did it.
good. Okay, then we're doing well so far. So Julie, if you have not seen her before, is a coach and mentor for women who are looking to deeply connect with their purpose and step into their power. And Julie, what does that mean?
There's such a beautiful story behind that. So usually when we have this soul urge, this soul calling to step out and share our story, what's really connected to that is I want to help other people go through what I went through and come out of it that much more empowered, right? And so when I am working with women, the usual type of woman that will come to me are the ones who know deep down inside that there's something more for them, that they came here to do much more than just pay bills and die. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing I always say. It's like, I know you're here to do much more than that. And of course, that's a validation for them. And they feel like they are looping. They feel like they are in this constant loop of frustration because they are seeing outside of themselves that there's much more for them to experience, and they feel that within them. And so what I love to do is to really help them reconnect with their purpose, with their truest essence, so that they can start decoding and understanding, well, how did I even get here in the first place? And how do I overcome all of these stories that are running in the back of my mind, all of these programmings and conditioning, so that I can start really creating that impact that I feel deep down inside that I'm here to create.
So, and that all sounds amazingly powerful and wonderful. And I certainly am one of those women who doesn't want to just, be here to pay bills and die. Like, that doesn't sound like much of a good time to me. So I'd like to know what kind of brought you to this and brought you as wanting to be a mentor and a coach for these women. Is there a personal story behind that?
Absolutely. There are several, actually. I find that we are such complex beings. And the one story that, I'm ready to share is I was in what I call the corporate cage. For me, it felt like a cage. But for the longest time, I thought that climbing the corporate ladder was the holy grail. I thought that if I get, the 6 figures salary, if I have my 4 weeks off per year, and I always joke that I had my own personal bathroom, like in my office, like I climbed up the ladder, thinking that that was going to be it. And then with that, I had the 2 kids. I had literally the house with the white picket fence. I had it all. And so I thought on paper, but slowly but surely, I was starting to feel that disconnect, and I was starting to feel like there was something missing. And that unraveled. I didn't really listen to it. I just kept on going. I kept on waking up every morning, getting my latte, going to work. And over time, though, it was starting to get more and more difficult for me to do this. And then there was resentment and there's frustration, and it started seeping out into my relationships especially with my children. And it came to a point where I was just miserable. It came to a point where my oldest son, actually told me one morning, like, why are you always so angry? Like, why are you always so miserable? You don't smile, you don't laugh. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And again, though, I continued going into that motion of just showing up because I felt guilty of wanting more. I felt guilty and ashamed of letting go of the corporate cage because I had dedicated 15 years of my life and I had responsibilities. And so I continued just moving through it, but I eventually ended up with digestive issues that brought me into the emergency room. It was like a mystery. The doctors did not know what was going on with me. There's a whole slew of physical ailments that came out because when you're not listening to your soul, what happens is that your body comes on board and says, well, like a screaming toddler, I'm going to have you listen. And so that's what happened to me. So I ended up in a burnout. and I didn't know where to go, what to do next. I did what people were telling me to do, like go speak to this person, or just
Mhm.
take, go get a massage, or go do this, go do that. And I did all those things. And then there was like, there was like a time clock ticking because I only had 3 months to figure my shit out, because then I had to get back to work. Right. And so when I did all that stuff after a month and nothing was working, like I felt so disempowered. I
Mhm.
felt like there was nothing for me to grab onto. And so I went even deeper into this burnout. And it was really like a dark night of the soul, where nobody understood me. I didn't feel understood. And I really had to get there. You had to go, sometimes you have to really hit the bottom of the barrel.
Oh yeah. I know exactly what you mean by that.
That whole bottom of the barrel, man, dude, did I know?
Oh
I became so familiar with every square inch of that bottom of the barrel.
yeah.
And I'll always remember I was sitting in my backyard. It was a nice sunny day, and I was looking up at the sky, and tears started streaming down my face because I was talking to whoever, I was like, okay, I've done everything. Everything that I know, I've done, and I don't know what to do next. So now I'm surrendering. Like I'm letting go. I'm letting go. And sure enough, within a couple of days, I ended up meeting my first real mentor. And
Wow.
that's how I got into a closed initiate school for mystics and sages. And she mentored me through energy healing, energy work. That's how I actually reconnected with numerology. So like everything just fell into place. And that's where I started getting my power back, because I was actually finally listening to this soul urge, because I didn't want to stay in that corporate cage anymore. I didn't
Mhm.
want to. But because of those stories that were running in the back of my mind, I was actually keeping myself caged up. And keep hold an animal long enough, a wild animal in a cage, I mean, that animal is going to become distressed, is actually going to turn into a very depressed, into a very very depressed state. And
Yeah.
so that's what was happening with me. And finally, I'm the one that had the freaking key to open up my cage door. And that's what I did. And like they say, like the rest is history. Like my whole life, that was back in 2012, and my whole
Wow.
life just shifted. Like it did like a whole 180, and I've never looked back since then. But it was all about me just surrendering and really allowing myself to feel what I needed to feel the goopy part. That's what I like to call it.
The
So that,
goofy part, like the butterfly and the
yes, yes,
cocoon. Yeah.
yes, that's
Yeah.
what I call the goopy part. It's like
Yeah.
the caterpillar going, turning into a butterfly. There's that freaking goopy part that scares the crap out of everybody.
Yeah.
Because can you trust turning into liquid? It's like, can you trust, you know?
No. Well,
Like letting go
yeah.
of all of that, like that structure that I had, that I thought I could trust. I had to let all that go and turn into this. And this is my way of seeing surrendering. It's like turning into that goop and
Right.
allowing it, myself and my connection to self and to source, to become. It's like a death and rebirth, right? It's like
Mhm.
to become something else. And so that is it's one of my stories, but it's really the main story of why I decided, like, I've been through hell and back. I was in the trenches. I get this. And I started seeing, my friends and even some family members that were going through the same thing. And I'm like, oh, I need to teach what I've learned
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And it's part of it's part of my blueprint too, my numerology chart. If you look into it, my heart's desire 7. And so the 7 is all about teaching what you have learned, because it's a number of depth and meaning. And so
Okay.
it all makes sense, right? That I want to show up like as that kind of teacher. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, you know?
So, okay. So that was amazing. And thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
um that part of your story.
Yeah.
I have some questions. Okay.
Yeah. Go.
So, I mean, you have to be super brave and super trusting in yourself to step out of that corporate mold or that corporate world. I always call it, because I'm currently in the corporate world, so I won't talk too much about that, but I call it like my golden handcuffs, right?
Yep.
Because it does, in a sense, like it allows me to pay for my life and all of these things. Can I say that I'm super passionate about it? No. Um, But you know, it's really hard because, as you know, I work as a psychic medium as well, and I do coaching and some other things too. But it's really hard to kind of like just step out of that and step into your power. Like, you know, especially I for example, I have a couple of other friends that are wanting to do this, but it's literally their only income source, right?
Yeah.
So how do you suggest that somebody actually get that done? Because realistically speaking, I couldn't just quit this job tomorrow.
Yeah.
Although I would love to, right?
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah.
But I would be scared shitless. And then I'd probably have to go running to mommy. I don't want to live with my mom again. No offense.
Right.
Like,
right.
what would I do? I don't know. That's scary.
Yeah.
So,
The way that I went through it, and we're all different, right? So
yeah.
again, I'm going to relate it back to, like, you know, that this energetic signature that you brought into this lifetime. Like we all go through life in our own way. I am the type of person that taking leaps of faith is okay. Like, I've done it. I'm able to do it. That's how I am made, and that's how I just roll, right?
Yeah.
Like I've told you just before we got to this podcast, it's like that's how I roll. But I also work with women who that's not how they roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need something tangible. They need, like, I have this one client who she really needs to have like a structure and a step-by-step process in order to transition from one iteration of herself to the next, right? So it's like that saying that Rome wasn't built in a day. So she needs to honor that. She needs to honor who she is, because if she doesn't and she starts, taking these leaps of faith like I do, her energetic system, like, and her nervous system is going to crash. It won't,
Yeah.
it'll send her into a downward spiral, and she won't be able to hold the energy. And so now she's going to be functioning out of scarcity, like that scarcity mindset, instead of, I got this, I trust this, I can do it. We're all built differently, we're all made differently. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and that's what I love about numerology, because we get to see, like, how do you transition? Like, who are you and what you're here to learn? Now, if you're here to learn about stability, and if, like, one of your biggest life lessons is to learn how to master that step-by-step process and how to really create a solid foundation, then to take those leaps of faith, there's going to need to be like a huge structure for you,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
already there in place, right? So we're all different. Like, for me, it was just to get really I call it a deep soul remembrance. And when I started reconnecting through this closed initiate school, through my truest essence, and I did move through a lot of energetic blocks, right? I did do the healing that was necessary at that point. Like, of course, you don't heal everything like in a year.
No,
It's
the
impossible. It's like
journey.
this upward spiral thing, and we're never done. But I did heal what needed to be healed at that moment for me to transition. So it wasn't like, oh, this is it, I'm done, I'm walking out and I'm not going back. I mean, it did take like months and months for me to unravel myself. And so you can do that while you're still, in the corporate world, but that your main like focus and your soul urge is to become like a psychic medium, like full time. This is what you love to do.
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
ignites you. And slowly but surely, that's where you're going to go. So, and that's what I love to use numerology and also energy healing, like to move through these blocks, so that we're able to kind of get to where it is that we want, which really ties into this year's universal energy, right?
Right. So yeah, so it's like you said, everybody is kind of structured a little bit differently. Everybody has different numbers.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a reading with you yet, and I do plan on
Soon.
definitely having one with you this year for sure, and sooner than later.
Yeah.
So because I think what happens sometimes, and I'm just speaking on my personal experience, is that, I see some people and they're taking all these big leaps and everything, and then I'm kind of sitting here kind of in a more structured
Yes.
way, like piece by piece, trying to figure out my next step in life. And then I kind of feel like, you know, I'm failing in a sense because, or I get like anxious feeling, or I feel, you know, like I'm not doing good enough, or I'm doing something wrong, that kind of thing, right? So, but it's just, it's a very personal thing, is what you're saying as
Yeah,
well.
like, and what I love again, like when you go back to your truest essence, when you really go back to like who you came here to be and what you came here to do, the whole comparison game starts like dissipating, because I used to compare myself, you know,
Mm.
to these other coaches and other mentors, and they were like hitting these crazy numbers, you know,
Yeah.
per year. And I'm like, oh, you know, but then I had to kind of look at where I was at. And that's where we get to meet ourselves where we're at and to lead ourselves with a lot of grace and a lot of compassion, because this whole like feeling guilty and ashamed and comparing
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, and it's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to do, but it's just not serving us. Like it's just
No.
making us feel shittier. And then we go into self-doubt, and then you know, it's just a downward spiral.
Yeah.
and
And the
and
whole,
so yeah, yeah.
well, I was
And
just
so
gonna say, yeah,
okay,
the
go
whole
ahead.
like shame and blame. No, it's okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say like the whole shame and blame game. And that kind of goes back to like, in a sense, like the good girl club that you were talking about earlier too. So we can chat a bit about that, where it's kind of like, yeah, you feel like you have to be a good girl, so you should be doing this and you should be
Yeah.
doing that. And oh, look at so and so, they're doing it better than you. Like that's just so deeply ingrained in
Mm,
our brains and in society. It's ridiculous. And that's why it's been so amazing finding such a beautiful spiritual space with
mm.
like-minded witches, so to speak, because there's not that competitive, yeah, there's not that competitive nature. It's like there's room for everybody, something you will never, or that I've never found in the corporate world. So let's talk a little bit about your good girl, your good girl,
The Good Girl Club.
the good girl club. Yeah,
The
let's
Good
talk
Girl
about that.
Club. So and this isn't my experience, this is also my experience, but it's also what I see with a lot of the women that come and work with me, right? So I truly believe that society has programmed women to be the good girls, because, and let's bring it down, let's bring it back to the whole witch aspect, the whole witchy subject, where
Yeah.
way back when we had covens, right, of these very powerful women who would circle, you know, that would create this electromagnetic frequency, like this cosmic ripple. And that scared the crap out of the patriarch, because it's like, holy crap, if they keep doing this, their
Mhm.
magic, if they keep working their magic, they're gonna freaking rule the world. And so
Hell
what they did,
yeah.
right? And so there went the whole hunt, right? The witch hunt, and they dismantled everything. And I always say, you know, when women circle, you better freaking watch out, because something happens, right? Because we carry the womb energy,
Yeah.
right? And we're here to create, to birth things into existence, right? Whether it's human beings or projects or ideas, or it doesn't matter, but we are here to birth out. And so society has created, has structured, you know, this life on this planet as, well, you're a woman, you need to do this, and as long as you do this, you will be accepted and we will be
Mhm.
pleased with you. And so at a very young age, there's this saying in French where it's tais-toi et sois belle, which means just sit pretty and be quiet. And that is the way that I was brought up. It's like, just sit pretty and be quiet, don't ruffle any feathers, don't you dare stomp your foot, and don't you dare be opinionated, right? And so what happens is that we dim our light, we dim down, we
Yeah.
dilute our message, we play small. And that's what the good girl does. She makes you play, she's such a bitch because she makes you,
Yeah.
she's such a bitch because she makes you play so freaking small. And
Right.
that's why I'm always like, step out of the fucking good girl club,
Yeah,
because it's not
totally.
serving you. Yeah, it's your comfort zone. Yeah, when you're there, everybody is pleased, but who is not being pleased the most? It is you. Because exactly, you're not even stepping out on stage, you know, with like the spotlight on you and the microphone, which you should, because the when you look at the archetype of the good girl, if you look at the whole like opposite of it, it is this amazing, beautiful, empowering woman that is out on stage and speaking her truth and creating that cosmic ripple. That's what she's doing. but it's like the good girl just wants to stay on the side, you know, of the stage, just behind the curtains going, I can't. Because if I go out, they will eat, maybe they'll boo me, maybe they'll walk out, maybe they'll criticize me. But at the end of the day, you're not here to please everybody. It's like
No, you're not
you're
here to please anybody, really.
right.
Yeah,
And so when I'm coaching women, I'm like, we need to step out of the good girl club because you have medicine. We are all medicine women, I believe. And we all
totally.
have this medicine within us. And if you're holding on to it, if you're diluting your message, if you're playing small, if you're hiding behind like closed doors, everybody that has a soul contract with you is not receiving your medicine. And so they're waiting. It's almost like, you know, the rock star that's supposed to go out on stage and the, you know, all of the people
Yeah,
are there and they bought their ticket and they're like, where is she?
yeah.
Where'd
She's
she go?
hiding behind the curtain. No, not
Right?
anymore.
Right? And so that's what I mean about the Good Girl Club. It's like it's so daunting and it's so frustrating and it really sends women into this looping cycle of like it's like that never ending story. It's always same shit, different pile, same shit, different pile. And
Totally.
you know, and so I'm always saying like the vision I'm getting is like in that movie Grease, you know, the pink ladies where they have like all their pink jackets and it's like just
Yes.
take the jacket off, you know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
just like retire the jacket and just
Totally.
step out. Yeah, step out into the light. So that's what comes through like when I'm talking about the Good Girl Club, which I find a lot of women now are starting to step out of it, which I love.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So that's part of your coaching and mentoring. You
Yeah.
also do a lot of numerology readings.
Mm.
And you have a really cool concept that I've seen. I have not, like I said earlier, I haven't had a chance to have a reading yet. We're
Yeah.
going to change that soon. And it's all these different codes. I've seen it multiple times. And it looks so cool. So can you just tell me a little bit about your readings?
Yeah. So for me, a numerology reading is your soul blueprint, right? I can see, like, with your date of birth and your birth name, we decode why you're here, who you came here to be, what you came here to do, what you came here to learn, your ultimate soul purpose, and all of the themes and the challenges that you came here to experience and to unravel and to alchemize, right?
Mhm.
So over the last 12 years, I've been doing this for 12 years, I've developed this type of one pager where I put all of your codes. I call them codes because they are encoded within you because each number has a frequency. And it's almost like, you know, when you see a sheet of music, right? All the different notes.
Yeah,
But
it's
when you
really
play
cool.
it, it's a melody, right? And so that's what this one page thing that you've seen, that's what it is. It's like all the different notes, but to get all together, it plays your melody, it plays your song.
That's
And
so
that's
cool.
how, yeah. And so that's how I created it because this also helped me to see if there was like an influx of a specific energy. I see patterns, like everything just pops up. And within my readings, you know, we get to decode you like at a soul level. And I do call it like a deep soul remembrance because I've been doing this for 12 years and I haven't met one person. Like I have offered hundreds and hundreds of readings, if not
Amazing.
thousands now.
Yeah,
And
I'm
it's
sure
like,
thousands. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I lose count, but you know, I haven't met one person who said, I don't resonate. You know,
Oh,
it's
I've heard
it's the
amazing
opposite.
things, like
Yeah.
constantly. And well, my best friend, whose name is also Julie, and she's been on this show before. I used to have another podcast with her. Anyways,
Yeah.
she just like talked so highly of you, and Carrie as well. And Carrie's been on here a couple of times as well. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to delving into my own blueprint for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say your blueprint, like this reading, what it does is that it becomes your permission slip. That's how powerful it is. It becomes your permission slip to step out of the good girl club, to really step into your power, to into your sovereignty, right? And to really show up as that sovereign woman who is here to share her medicine. You
Yeah.
know, so I have very often I have women in tears and they're crying, and it's like because they're like, holy shit, I am not crazy. I'm like, no, you're not, you
No.
know, and
Yep.
they're validating things and they're unraveling as we are going through this reading. And they come out of there and like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. And I'm like, well, it's because you
Amazing.
experienced a very deep soul remembrance. And it's like there was, you know, a veil, a veil just lifted up, you know. And
Yep.
so for me, it's very humbling. And at the same time, it's like so empowering because I feel like this is it. This is what I'm here to do. Like I'm here to create that impact in this way.
That's, I'm just blown away by all of that. It's just, it's amazing. And I know what you mean to it by telling women they're not crazy and
Yeah.
helping them kind of reclaim their power as well. So just out of curiosity, so we have like a life path number,
Yeah.
and then so there's other important numbers as well that you
Yeah,
would.
so I talk a lot about three core numbers, and I always do the triangle because they like work in
Okay.
a triad, right? So
Okay.
you have your most important number is your life path number, and I call it a life path sequence because I do bring in what we call extended numbers. I do it a bit differently than most numerologists, but your life path sequence is the most important one because that's the trajectory that you chose to experience and to learn from in this lifetime. So the
Okay.
more you understand this, the less you're going to loop.
Oh, I
Right?
see.
Because you're like, ooh, got the assignment. Like I understand it. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, and then it's almost like you graduate, right? You ascend to like that next iteration of yourself. And it's not like those life lessons go away, but you will experience them on another level, right? And then you
Right.
keep going. And the more you understand that code, the easier life is going to be. So that is the most important one of all of the other codes. But the other two that I talk a lot about is your destiny. Your destiny is who you came here to be. It's your zone of genius. It's your highest form of self-expression. And I often compare it to your higher self. So it's like this invisible thread that keeps pulling you, like saying there's more, there's more. And I see a lot of women in their 40s and 50s come to me because that's when your destiny code really starts coming more online, like it's taking up more
Mhm.
room in your life. And so there's a shift, and they'll come to me and say, I think I'm going through a midlife crisis. Like, I don't know. Like, you know, it's like I just want to burn everything down and just start anew. And I'm like, of course, because now you're feeling that invisible thread, like that cord that's pulling you. It makes sense, right? And the third one is your heart's desire. I kind of mentioned it earlier, me being a heart's desire 7. This is how your soul wants to show up in this lifetime, right? So I want to show up as that teacher, but it's like the learning teaching type of teacher, right? Like I've been there, done that. I want to teach you so that you get to see what your truth is. And maybe you don't have to take the detour. Maybe you don't have to take the scenic route. Maybe I'll be able to help you just take that direct
Yeah.
flight, you know?
Yeah. Because sometimes you're like going in a loop and a loop and a loop and oh
Right?
my goodness. Oh,
Right? Right?
totally.
Or you're like at a standstill, there's a
Oh
crossroad,
my
and you're
goodness.
like, I don't know if I should go right or left, or you take the scenic route and you're like, it's pretty and all, but can we just get there?
But I'm getting sick and tired of, yeah, totally. I completely understand. Oh my goodness. So, and what's cool too is that you can get a reading with yourself, and then afterwards, you also have other offerings if your clients kind of want to extend the experience, right, and
Right.
really
So
unlock their power.
right. So what I was seeing after a while is that all of these incredible people will come and see me and get a reading, and they would leave like whistling a tune and feeling much lighter, and they were ready to conquer the world, and they had their permission slip, right? And I was like, yes. And then they would like contact me 6 months later saying, I haven't even like taken step one. Like I'm still stuck in this. And I'm like, oh, you know? So I created what I call the portal membership. And it's basically you walking through that portal where it's a bit like of a death and rebirth, where you have this permission slip in your hand, right? The reading. And if you didn't get a reading, it's fine. You can still be part of the portal membership because there
Okay.
is a training. I have an online library that everybody has access to, and they get to understand and to decode their 3 core numbers. So they have at least that, and then they have a couple of other numbers that we dive into as well. So, and it's to really help them walk through this like portal where they get to see like that next iteration of themselves. Like they get to really experience their highest path, their highest form of self-expression, right? So it's almost like when you see people, you know, when people say, hey, I see 1111, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
portal, right? It's a portal. People walk through the portal and they get to really like start seeing themselves in a different way, and their perception shifts. So this is what this membership is all about. It's about supporting these women who have taken that deep dive, you know, and have experienced the deep soul remembrance, or who want to, and then really guide them and support them. So we meet like twice a month where I offer group coaching. They have an access to an online library where they have all of these trainings, and there's numerology, absolutely, but there's also energy healings, and there's meditations, and I do weekly audio drops to help them move the needle,
That's
right?
awesome.
Because that's what I want them to do. Like, I want them to just step out of the freaking good girl club
Yeah,
and to start taking soul aligned action so that they become that unshakable sovereign woman.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite number?
Of course.
Oh, you do? You do have a
I
favorite
do,
number?
I do. And it's the number 8. It's the number 8,
Okay,
which it ties into actually the universal energies of this year. But I'm a
okay,
life path. I'm a
perfect.
life path 8, and I'm a soul number 8 too. So and it's also my karmic lesson. So I have a lot of 8s in my chart, but it happens to be the trajectory that I came here to really unravel and to understand. And this is a number that I truly feel that everybody is going to get a good taste of this year, because we are in a universal year 8. And it's about sovereignty. It's about sovereignty. It's about
Mhm.
stepping into your power. There's a reason why that I'm doing this, right? Who better to teach other women to step into their power than somebody who's actually, that's what she came here to learn.
Totally.
And that's
Absolutely.
me, and so it's about finding that balance, between the spiritual world and the material world, and to really become that divine channel, to channel in that wisdom, that guidance, the divine guidance, so that you can take like that soul line action, really become the CEO, the architect of your life.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be that year, and I call it the era of the queen.
Yeah. Heck
Get your
yeah.
fucking crown on,
Hell
because
yeah.
that's what it
Let's
is.
go.
It's like walking. There's this is it a GIF or a GIF? I never know how people call
I
it.
think it's a GIF. I
It's
don't
a GIF.
know.
Okay. But there's a
I
GIF
know.
where I think it's Rihanna, and she's putting down like a crown like onto her.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the energy of this year. So we're going to feel it because it's a universal energy. It's not necessarily in our backyard, but it is, let's say, in the neighborhood. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
we will feel it. And as entrepreneurs, we're going to feel like how we want to create more impact. We want to expand. We want to really show up as like this queen of her kingdom, and really
Amazing.
be able to create something extraordinary, something that's sustainable. But again, it's completely connected to this wisdom, this innate wisdom that we have. And we're going to actually see, in the collective, we're really going to see like what true leadership is. So we're going to see the dictators and these
Mhm.
authority figures, we're going to see them starting to crumble, because I call it new earth leadership, because this is the time where people are going to want to take their power back as a
Yeah.
collective too. So I'm feeling like humanity is like, that's enough. Like, this is enough. I mean, we deserve more, and this is the year that we can get what we want.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're all feeling this, but January right now, the energy of January, this is where we're at right now as we're doing this podcast, is all about releasing what is actually stopping you from being that queen, being that king. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Being that CEO. It's like, what's that bungee cord that's holding you back? Go and look at that. Where are you out of integrity? Like, what is it that you're still holding on to, so that you can release? So there's a purging that's happening in January. A lot of things are being released, letting go, so that then we can rev it up and start moving forward. Yeah.
I feel like, even, I don't know about you, but lately I'm like decluttering like crazy.
Yeah.
I know it's January and everyone's always on like a health kick in January, but I'm like, okay, I feel like I want to cleanse my body and like just do all these things.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
really truly feel like it's certainly a time to just, exactly like you said, release and step into your full power.
For
Um,
sure. For sure.
yeah. And to me, that's, in every single way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, sexually. No, but no, I don't know.
On all aspects. On all
Yeah, you know
aspects.
what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
just stepping in and putting that crown on. So
Absolutely, right? And you need to
yeah,
purge in order to be
yeah,
that clear vessel. And you know that, being a psychic medium, it's like, if there's clutter and there's shit and you're not feeling, like, you're
yeah.
not feeling connected, and there's muck and stuff that's just stopping you from being that clear channel, then you won't be able to receive that guidance and take that
No,
next step, right? Yeah.
no, it's fuzzy and difficult to do so. Yeah, when you're
Sure.
not completely kind of aligned and ready to go.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Julie. It's been amazing. Like I learned so much, and you're just a phenomenal person and a phenomenal woman. You really are, honestly.
Thank
Like
you.
I'm so happy that you came on my podcast. And it's really cool too, because it's well, when this is released, it'll be on January 11th, which, you know, it's like first, well, January is number one, right? And
Yeah.
then 11. So I'm like, what better person to have on for like, you know, 111, right?
I love
So
that.
yeah, so thank you so much. Did you want to plug your socials and where we can find you?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram. That is basically the platform that I use the most. So it's at Julie Sasha Cloutier. You can find me there. I'm also on Facebook. Again, it's the same handle. It's Julie Sasha Cloutier. And I do offer in-person readings at Pure Lotus Wellness in Kemptville. And I also offer readings online if you're not in the area. And again, I have my portal membership that you can find in my bio on Instagram.
Perfect. And as always, you can find me at This Witch is Viral, as well as Instagram under my name, Nina DeBoss. Facebook is also Nina DeBoss. And currently I'm updating my website, which should be done next week. I'm aiming for January 15th. And that is www.ninadeboss.com. This Witch is Viral is on YouTube and will soon be on Spotify as long as things go well. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks so much and take care. Let's find that record button. Oh, fuck me. Okay, wait, I can't even find my mouse this time. Okay, let me use my finger. I think my mouse died. Oh, my mouse died. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna have to go old school here. Find that. There we go. Oh my gosh. Stop recording. Bye all.